This week, we're gearing up for Starship Flight 8's long-awaited launch. We'll be getting into the chaos behind NASA employees and a very controversial email, and we'll be breaking down how SpaceX's Falcon 9 upper stage unexpectedly re-entered over Europe. So, without any further delay, my name is Connor, and welcome to another episode of Spaceflight News. Hey Starship fans, it's been a crazy week at Starbase, and we're close to another big launch. SpaceX's next test, Starship Flight 8, was delayed twice, but now we're eyeing a Monday afternoon liftoff. Good news though, the FAA has cleared the flight despite the investigations into Flight 7 still being open. Booster 15 rolled out this week, and while it didn't have the hot staging ring at first, it arrived soon after. They also tested the chopstick pushers, these robotic arms that are guiding the booster onto the launch mount. Plus, we've got some awesome drone shots with the rolling fog. After some detonation suppression tests and Raptor igniter checks, the hot staging ring was removed for additional checks, but was soon reinstalled. They also added the flight termination system, signaling we're getting ever closer to the next launch. Meanwhile, Ship 28 is still at the build site, but SpaceX has finally shared the details on Flight 7's failure. A leak in the attic caused a pressure rise and fires, triggering the termination system. To prevent this, SpaceX is adjusting propellant temperatures, adding vents, and upgrading the Raptor engines. As for the booster, they've fixed the lower power igniter issue from Flight 7's boost backburn. Finally, SpaceX dropped an epic 4K recap video of Flight 7, showing just how much progress they've made in a short amount of time. Where do we stand now? Booster 15 is ready, the FAA has cleared the flight, and the flight termination system is in place. Now, we're just waiting for Ship 28 to roll out and the countdown will begin. Starting off now with a bit of workplace drama, NASA employees found themselves in an awkward situation after receiving an email from the Office of Personnel Management asking them to submit a list of their accomplishments. Seems harmless, right? Well, the email also came with a warning. Failure to respond would be considered a resignation. That sparked a wave of confusion and concern across federal agencies, with some NASA employees being told to hold off on responding while leadership figures out what's going on. It's still unclear how this is going to shake out, but let's just say it's not every day you see a "what did you do this week" email that causes this much chaos. Meanwhile, the space industry is sending some mixed signals. On one hand, satellite demand and venture funding are looking strong. On the other, major players like Boeing and Blue Origin have been laying off employees. Satellite services are expected to keep growing, but manufacturing and launch vehicle production seems to be facing some turbulence, especially as government contracts and priorities shift. It's a reminder that space isn't just about exploration, it's a big business, and business can be unpredictable. Speaking of unpredictability, SpaceX ran into a bit of an issue with Falcon 9 upper stage. A propellant leak prevented the stage from doing its planned deorbit burn after a February 1st launch, leading to an uncontrolled re-entry over Europe. Debris ended up falling in western Poland, marking the third time since last July that Falcon 9 has had an upper stage problem. SpaceX says they've implemented fixes to prevent this from happening again, but details on those are still under wrap. Over in my home country of Australia, Gilmore Space is making history with the country's first homegrown orbital rocket launch. Their Iris rocket is set to launch no earlier than March 15th, pending final airspace closure approvals. This is a huge moment for the Australian space industry, but the company is keeping their expectations level and realistic. First launch of a new rocket rarely go perfectly. Either way, it's an exciting step forward for a bright continent. Now, let's talk about the moon. Intuitive Machines is gearing up for its second lunar landing attempt, with a launch as soon as tonight. The lander, part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Service program, is set to touch down near the lunar South Pole on March 6th. It's carrying a NASA drill designed to search for water ice along with the commercial payloads, including a rover and even a 4G LTE communication system. And that's not all. NASA's Lunar Trailblazer orbiter is hitching a ride too. So fingers crossed for a smooth journey to the surface. Back on Earth, NASA's Artemis program is under scrutiny. During a House hearing this week, experts debated how to make the lunar campaign more sustainable. One suggestion? Move away from expensive SLS rocket in favor of commercial heavy lift vehicles. There were also concerns about whether SpaceX's Starship lunar lander system would be ready for crewed missions by 2030, especially with China aiming for its own moon landing that same year. Some experts are now pushing for a smaller lander that could be ready sooner. Regardless of the approach, everyone agreed going back to the moon is a necessary step before heading to Mars. Virgin Galactic is also making moves, announcing the assembly of its next first-generation suborbital spaceplane, which starts in March. Dubbed the Delta Spaceship, this new vehicle is expected to begin flight testing in next spring, with commercial flights planned by mid to late 2026. The goal? Faster turnaround times, lower costs, and hopefully a path to profitability for the small company. Meanwhile, a startup with an ambitious idea just got a funding boost. StarCloud, formerly known as Lumen Orbit, secured an additional $10 million for its plan to launch data centers into orbit. Yes, you heard that right. Data centers in orbit. The company wants to power them using massive solar panels and is planning to test a launch this summer featuring NVIDIA GPUs in space. It's a futuristic concept that would certainly change how we think about cloud computing. Finally, Rocket Lab is pushing back against rumors of major delays to its Neutron rocket. Some reports suggest that the first major launch might not happen until 2027, but Rocket Lab insists it's still aiming for a debut in the second half of this year. They're working on multiple aspects of the rocket and its launch pad simultaneously, and have even acquired a barge to serve as a landing platform. Looks like they're moving full steam ahead, regardless of whatever happens. On February 27th, Roscosmos launched the Soyuz 2-1A rocket, carrying the Progress MS-30 spacecraft from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan at 9:24 UTC. This mission is part of Russia's ongoing efforts to resupply the International Space Station with vital cargo. Carrying the Starlink Group 1220 satellites at 2:24 UTC, March 1st, 2025. And finally, on February 26, SpaceX launched another Falcon 9 carrying the IM-2 lunar lander towards the moon. This mission is a significant step as it marks the second lunar mission of 2025 already, continuing the progress of lunar exploration. From lunar landings to orbital data centers, the industry is certainly moving fast and there's plenty to keep an eye on. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. I'm Connor, and this has been Spaceflight News. See you next time. And as always, keep looking up.